All right, welcome everybody back to the Business and Hustle podcast, where we talk to great people doing great things. Today I have a special guest, uh, a guy I've been following maybe over a year now, uh, Ernest Gaines. How you doing?
How you doing, man? How you
Uh,
doing? How you doing?
man,
Glad to
I'm
be
doing
here.
great. Let's get right to it. Tell the people about yourself.
Well, my name is Ernest, co-founder of a company called The Profit Room. The Profit Room, we're a stock market trading and education company. So we teach people how to trade and invest in all the financial markets, whether it's stocks, options, futures, forex. It doesn't matter. If it has a chart, we teach you how to trade it so you become an independent professional trader. So we call our students the freedom traders. So once you
Mm.
learn how to trade and invest in these markets, you have the money freedom, also the time freedom to do whatever you want, and also be able to show your family, be able to build generational wealth with that.
All right, all right. Well, let's take it back a little bit. Tell us about when you first decided independent entrepreneurship was the thing for you. What state was you in life, in your mind, and everything when you said, you know what, it's time.
I'll start at a very young age. I remember when I come from a skilled labor background. So my family owned a heating and cooling air conditioning business
Mm-hmm.
already. That's my father had. So that's what I knew what I was going to do. But once I hit the age around maybe 19 years old, I was interested in more entrepreneurship, how to build business. And I started younger reading books on that. And so at that time, I just wanted to be a real estate person.
Mm-hmm.
So I invested very young in the real estate at the age of 22. About the age of 25, I had 5 properties. And what I realized is like, wow, I'm gonna do be Mr. Landlord, right? And I'm gonna just do as much as I can. So I had a very, very early on thought process of being an entrepreneur. Um, then I made the transition towards the later years into trading and investing because I realized where I'm at up north, even though I like real estate, I had to deal more with people and deal
Mm-hmm.
more with laws and things of that nature. And in front of my face was the newspaper every day reading about this economic turmoil. And I said, if this market is coming down, maybe there's a chance I could learn how all this stuff works. And that's when I made the transition to being more into trading and investing at that time than real estate.
Well, what year was this?
This was 2008 during that
Okay.
economic crisis.
Okay.
That's when I started getting more into understanding the market.
Okay. So when the during the downturn, you started focusing more on trying to transition out of real estate.
No, like I wanted to keep real estate. A lot of people was losing their properties, but fortunately, I had a trade. That's why I tell everybody I skilled labor. We did heating and cooling. So summertime I have work, wintertime I have work, all the time, like the necessities people needed.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the economic downturn happened, like a lot of properties that I had lost value, but I still had tenants in them. But in front of my face all the time was all this gloom and doom on the paper. So I wanted to know more about that. So once I got educated, I got a coach. I actually learned how to trade during the economic crisis. And that was like one of the best gifts possible because I was learning how to profit on a declining market. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the specialties that we teach. Even though the market is dropping and falling, our students make a lot of money as the market goes down. So a lot of people focus on more of the upside, which is great as well, but we make a lot more with fear when the market goes down. So I had a coach that was teaching me these skills, and I was realizing I was making even more returns versus my real estate rental. I didn't have to deal with people at the same time. I didn't have to worry about all these insurances and things of that nature. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna start transitioning into this a little bit better because I don't have to deal with so many extra responsibilities. So
Right.
I still have that love for the real estate, but my passion started going towards something else that gave me more freedom.
So
And that's when I
that
started making that transition into developing more into a trader.
so that would that be that laptop money that you was looking for?
Correct. That's exactly what I was looking for. And
Mm-hmm.
in a time, and also with real estate, and there's nothing again, you have to deal with people and their issues and their problems. And as humans, we put those problems on ourselves, inspectors,
Mm-hmm.
cities and things, all that stuff that comes in, and it's a great return and against a great tax benefit. And I'm not against it, but I was enlightened to something that was bringing even more returns with the less headache, right?
Right.
And the less time. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I started going more towards that path. That path.
Okay. All right. So you got you started pretty young with in entrepreneurship. Like you said, you had properties by the time you were in your early 20s.
Correct.
What were you taught before that to even make you put you in that position?
So one of the best things that ever happened to me, um, even though my father was an entrepreneur, I got one of my hands on that book. Most people read. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad, right, by
Absolutely.
Robert Kiyosaki. But a lot of people don't implement. And I've never been to college. Period. Graduated high school. I went to trade school to learn heating and cooling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Got a great job doing that, right? Great income. And when I read the book the first time, a guy gave it to me. I read it. Then the second time I read it and I underlined it. And I realized that I needed to purchase something in order to be able to help out with taxes and things of that nature. So I saved up as much money as I can and I bought my first property at 22. And reading that book and remembering it, it was like, how can I make my money work for me? Assets over liabilities, all of
Mm-hmm.
that. And I'm like, I could either dump a lot of money in this property or just focus on one room at a time. So I bought that property and I gave it all I got. Put money down and everything of that nature. And probably within maybe 2 years, the property gained some great value. So
Mm-hmm.
still studying and understanding stuff, I took out a line of credit. Took out a
Right.
line of credit of over 100,000 and kept my credit good. And from that line of credit, I took out about 10, 15,000 to put down on a two-family property, right?
Right.
Took care of that. 2 years later, a year later with that, once that two-family was rented, I took out a line of credit on that two-family for 40,000, right? So I
Okay.
still have my personal line. Once I did that, I bought a three-family property with that. So here we go. I'm building, playing the game. I'm
Right.
playing the game.
Right.
So even during the economic downturn, right, they started closing our lines of credits and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still fine. And during that time, I picked up two more properties. I picked up a commercial property, and unfortunately, one of my neighbors fell into foreclosure, and I was able to short sell their property
Right.
and pick up their property for like pennies on the dollar, right? So,
Right.
you know, I knew how it worked. I knew that cash wasn't king. I knew leverage.
Right.
And once you did it once, you can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, you know. But with the good comes the bad.
Okay.
So around maybe 2007, I had a property taken from me, eminent domain.
Oh.
So a lot of people like, I'm up north, I'm in New Jersey, highest taxes in the world, crazy. So I paid a three-family property at the time, paid about 230,000, fully rented,
Right.
and it was in a redevelopment zone. They decide. Sheriff came to
Right.
my house and everything. Had his pistol,
So
served me.
So when they do eminent domain, is that's it? We're not giving you no money for the property. This is ours now because this is in the
Well,
way of progress.
this in the way of progress, but they'll give you what they assess the property to be.
Okay.
So in that neighborhood, it was a little blighted, but I
Mm-hmm.
had a 3 family fully rented. Like I said, in my line of work, where I can keep a property up, fully rented,
Mm-hmm.
no problem. And they were scooping up and buying properties left and right.
Right.
So I paid 230 for that property. So they came and they said that they'll give me 70,000 for it. Now I still got a mortgage on that property
Right.
of 230,000. You know what I mean? So
Whoa.
now here I go because that's the value. So I got to pay for lawyers. Spent about 15,000 on lawyers and lost the case because they had mediators come in to give assessed values. You can't win with stuff like that some
Right.
cases.
Exactly.
So what happened was, I had a mortgage with Chase, and it's not my fault.
Right.
So all of a sudden, at the mediation, they granted. So that town issued a $70,000 check to, Chase. Chase rejected that wire
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't want that, right? But they still took the property from me. So that hurt me because it hurt my credit because you can't short sell a property you don't own, right? So now I
Right.
have this balance over my head from the difference between the 70 and the 230. That's out of my control.
Okay. Now that wow. Okay.
You
So
see, and I tell that to real estate investors all the time. They're like, wow, that's like,
that's
listen,
incredible.
right? So now my attorney's calling Chase, and Chase, mitigation department don't know what to say because every loan has some type of underlier that like you could be the mortgage, you could
Mm-hmm.
be holding that note, but you're using Wells Fargo to service it. So
Right.
whoever was holding my note behind that, wanted to wait. But in the interim, that messes me up financially,
So did
right?
that put you in the hole? The
That
whole
put me in a
amount?
whole credit. What? But see, that was one of the things we didn't know at the time, but it affected me credit wise because even though I don't own the property, they reporting that I'm not paying. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So they started closing some of my lines of credit and stuff like that. And this
Right.
was nothing I did anything bad part. And they were doing this to elevate our people.
Right.
They were taking me out of a neighborhood I invested in order to put new low income housing in. Right. So I felt kind of blotted on both sides. I know one thing for our people, but what about the people who invested back in the neighborhood like me?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
So
So
they didn't give you any benefit. They a lot, right? Nothing. They just said
none of that kid. They just give you what they think the value is.
until you go.
So, and what happened was I went through all of that, and this was like 2006, and they ran out of money. They didn't even get to my neighborhood. The project ran out of money. The property
Right.
to this day is still there. They gave my tenants their Section 8 when they did it. The house is still there. I went through all of that. They never tore down the house because they ran out of money.
Right.
So now you see, I went through all of this with real estate and I started tasting this trading. I'm like, man, I ain't got time for that. I
Right.
did as a young man, good credit, doing the right thing and investing and doing all of this. And I could tell you that story because it happened to me. It was, and many people can't recover from that mentally or emotionally
Right. Exactly.
because you work hard to keep your credit, then you gotta call a lawyer to call Chase to stop reporting to my credit that I'm not paying the mortgage of a house I don't own anymore because the state of city took the house. How can I pay on something I don't own anymore? It was taken from me because you rejected that fair value,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the right to reject that. But why it's in the limbo in the interim, right? That leaves me kind of powerless a little bit. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So, they popped up out of the blue. This happened 2000 and probably three, no, yeah, 2000 and like no, 2013. They popped up like 4 years later after that. I got a call from the lawyer. Oh, I need you to sign some papers. They want to take the money out now. So that money was just sitting in the court system.
Right.
So they finally, but I mean, it was already too late then. So I'm asking the lawyer, what about that thing above my head? He was talking about the statues. Don't worry about that, But you know, that's where like a lot of people, what I'm saying, being a business or entrepreneur, I could tell you that story is a horror story.
Right.
But I still got properties to this day. So it's not no problem like that. But that can take you out. That can wipe you out. That can wipe a generation out.
So
Because I had
so
to get the lawyers. I paid over like 15,000 in lawyer fees for not to happen, and it still didn't work.
so what did it do to you mentally? Did it?
It mentally, yeah, it mentally made me seem at one point like, how can you ever make it out here when things like that happen? When you come to somebody, and it's a town I was born in. I reinvested back in my town,
Mm,
in the hood,
like they tell us to do?
like they tell us to do. And you sit there and you go to the judge, and then you go to the mediation. The mediation, the people don't look like us,
Right.
you know. And you sit there in front of seven other attorneys who make that decision for you. But that's how like, man, how can you beat the politics? How can you beat the corruption? How you can beat all of that? Because at the end of the day, I didn't get never got none of that money back. It just took time and energy. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and that's where, like, I always tell people, you got to know what state that good to invest in. I would the stuff I'm doing up here north. That's why people thrive so much better in the South and other areas like that. You know what I mean? Like when you see
Hmm.
all those assigns and flips and all of that, you got to know what city you're in.
Right.
And if I knew more people in other out of state, I probably could have killed it out of state.
Right.
Much better. So, but yeah, it mentally messed me up. I was just like, man, like you can't even do the right thing sometimes.
Right.
And some of the people for that moment, because I'm very I can explain myself very well. So when you're talking to a judge or you're talking to mediators and stuff like that, they just get a blank look on their face, like, oh well,
Right.
there's nothing you
Right.
can do.
Exactly.
So I just kept pushing and kept going. And that's the same thing, like I said before, I've been to court, same thing with tenants, who took advantage and things like that and all that stuff. It's just the same feeling you get where you try to do the right thing, but there's always people out there that's wicked
Right.
some type of
Right.
way. But I would just tell people at the end of the day, just don't give up. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm telling you this story from a perspective that I made it past that. If I
Hmm.
didn't make it past it, I'd probably be saying it a little bit different.
Right.
Because a lot of my friends and people, they walked away from properties. They gave up on this. They said, forget it. I never walked away from anything like that. I just kept
Hmm.
going and going. And, fortunately, I'm still here. And that's why I was just saying, where even though I read all the books about the stuff and I'm just going to make money off rentals, nobody tells you when you go down that line, one day you might get punched in your face,
Right.
out of
Right.
the blue. And you always got to be prepared for that.
Right.
Always got to be prepared for that.
All right. So, boom, this happened. It's time to move on to phase two of your life.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was the market.
Correct.
Okay. So, was there mentorship, coaching involved?
Oh, definitely, definitely. So what I would do, I would read the paper every day because I'm in a
Hmm.
work truck. We're doing service calls and stuff like that. Back then, there was like no Facebook to look at and all this other stuff on your phone. So in between jobs, there's nothing else to do. I didn't have no Game Boy and stuff playing like that. I was a grown man. I was just reading the paper. So
Hmm.
I would just take a couple of night classes, how to read and understand the financial pages. That they would have like local high schools.
Right.
And I took a little bit like small courses like that they advertised at like the local county. And I would be the youngest person there. Didn't know too much about anything, just to understand. And then I came across a young lady that worked for a hedge fund,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, "Yeah, I could teach you how to trade." South African sister, young too, started trading like around 24, 25. And I was like, "Hey, can you show me how to trade?" She said, "Yeah." So I did a coaching program with her, and taught me a lot. Was a coach for like 3 years. Um, was able to take me to China because she's living in China for a little bit. Stayed there for like 2 weeks just to get like another atmosphere
Right.
of different type of people like us that trade and invest and things like that. And you know, took my time to develop the mindset of understanding how just the markets work, because I was like more local and not understanding that psychology behind it. So after that, and I saw the light, it was just a wrap. I just moved on from there.
Okay. So now you said you met the lady. Now where did you meet this lady?
She was a friend of mine's sister who
Okay.
worked for a hedge fund.
Okay. So she was already in the game tough.
Yeah, but she just on her own, so she worked
Right.
for a hedge fund. Yeah, nothing like. Remember, I come from skilled labor,
Right.
right? Like I'm not on like I've never been on a desk job. I don't know anything about social media at this time,
Right.
anything. You get what I'm saying? So when whoever I searched out or find, it was like word of mouth or newspaper, and that's how it happened. Yeah.
So did she charge you for all the
Oh
coaching?
yes, yeah. I
Okay.
paid a lot of money back then. Like it wasn't
Right.
cheap.
Right.
Like started a couple thousand and up from there.
Right.
Like it was like major money in
Right.
order. But like at that time,
Now
you
what year
know,
are we in?
this is around 2008, towards the
Okay.
decline, 2008. Yeah.
Okay. Still the same time frame, the
Yep.
same
Still the time
market
frame, early
downturn.
market downturn and things
Right.
like that. Yep.
Okay. Recession. The whole
Recession, all
nine.
of that. Yep. So I'm
Okay.
just, yeah, pumping money into education.
All right. So that brings me to a point now. When people, how important is coaching in any aspect, not just the market, how you got it? What would you tell people about this coaching period? Because I think I wasn't too familiar with coaching
Hmm.
and mentorships. When I was younger, we had you probably remember the Big Brother, Big Sister program.
Yeah,
That
correct.
was that was the extent of a mentorship, and I thought that was just for
Hmm.
kids who didn't have daddy, so you go over there and then they act like your daddy for you. But what would you
Got
tell
you.
people about mentorship, coaching, period?
I would say mentorship and coaching is really going to help you out and guide you in the right direction of who you are. Like a lot of people just think that you could self teach yourself and you got a lot of discipline. It depends on what you actually doing. Like plenty of times when I had a coach, or even to this day, I have coaches. You know, you need somebody to set you straight. Everybody thinks that they're so self-aware about themselves and
Mm-hmm.
they got it all together. And there's plenty of times I remember when I first started with the trading coach, she was like, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this isn't for you. It's probably best that you just stick to what you're doing because I don't want to see you hurt yourself and lose money and things like that. And I'm like, why would you say that? This is I just see it in you, like some of the stuff that you're doing, some of the stuff I'm telling you to do, and that kind of hurt me because that let me know I need to change myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because even though I thought I had it together, if somebody that I'm paying is telling me maybe this isn't for me,
Right.
like I'm like, all right,
Wake
well,
up
how
call.
can I make it for me?
Right.
How can I make it for me? Now I'm begging you to make sure I can make it for me, right?
Right.
And that's the thing, because everybody, is different, right? And if you allow yourself to be coached, you take that voice out of your head where you think you know everything, for
Mm-hmm.
somebody to check you and also to keep you accountable. Because you could
Okay.
say one thing, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but majority of the time when somebody asks you to do something, right, then you're gonna actually do it.
Okay.
You know what I
All
mean?
right. All right. So, coach, you got coach. You spent a couple years being coach.
Oh yeah, yeah, for a long time, probably a good 4 years being coached.
Uh,
Definitely 4 years, because we started developing some more like friendship and understanding how the market works and building that closeness, and it definitely worked out. It
uh,
helped out a lot for her to be able to bring me in and things like that.
okay. So, when for people who have not been coached or have not been mentored, describe what mentorship was like. What was it? Uh, how can I say that? Give me, what did it mean to be coach? That how did that work with you guys? Was this we meet once a week? We talk twice a month? I give you an assignment to do. How did break it down to somebody who's never been coached? How did that coaching, your particular coaching, work out?
So how I would look at it, being having a set schedule, like a week by week schedule, right? To have accountability. So if somebody says, "Hey, um, okay, I'm gonna talk to you every Tuesday at this time. Every Tuesday at this time, I'm expecting XYZ. Send you an email. Send you an email." Right? Right. It's very important. So now you going through your day, you're going through your week, is just like school. So you're gonna look at your plans throughout the day and remember, hey, my coach is meeting with me on Tuesday. I need to have this together. I need
Right,
to have all this stuff together. So now it's like, now you're forcing yourself to study, right? Which you should be doing on your own, but
right,
you still don't want to look like a fool when you're in front of somebody, right?
mm-hmm,
Who's looking out for your best interest. So it's
right,
almost compounding on what you need to do, but you're reinforcing yourself with somebody else, right?
right,
So now it's like, okay, that if I don't get it this week, I know I'm not going to learn something new next week,
right.
right? So that's one of the most important things with the coaching side. And you start getting to learn how to be coached, and you start changing yourself because now you learn how to take direction. Now
Right.
you don't know it all and things like that. And even as a coach myself, you get to learn the personality types. You got overachievers, people who are just smart at everything. You got overthinkers and you got
Right.
underachievers too. So now, as a person being coached before, you know how to adapt to each type of personalities.
Okay. All right. So let's step into the mindset of a trader. We're gonna dig off into this trading. What is the mindset of a trader? What do they need to? If somebody that don't know anything about trading, they like, you know what? This like this. This is gambling. This is sophisticated gambling. What kind of mindset does a person actually need if they want to be in the be a trader?
So you need to learn how to let yourself be put in a situation of allowing yourself to be coached. Very, very important. Allowing yourself to be coached in a way that, how can I put it? The market doesn't represent you, right? The market doesn't represent you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to realize that when you look at the self, yourself, when you look at everything that's going on in the market, you know that when you're trading and investing, you have to separate who you are personally, right? You have to separate who you are personally, because just because you can do something well, it doesn't mean you can trade well at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right or wrong with trading. We only trade with probabilities. That's it. We don't trade with being right or wrong. right?
Right.
So what we have to do is look at that and just realize that, hey, when I'm trading, there's a chance that everything could be set up the right way, but it still may not work out.
Right.
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 So it's just like you get in your car, you put your seatbelt on, you drive, you get to enter the highway, boom. As soon as you pull out, somebody may hit your bumper. Right. But you did everything right. Right. But then
Right.
you may get out and drive and you might go in the right direction and it works out. There's
Right.
just probabilities. Right. The safest probability gives you the best reward.
Right.
So you can't blame yourself. So that's one of the major things with trading.
So you basically have to step outside yourself and realize
Correct.
you don't have this kind of control. You can't be emotionally attached to what's going on. You just have to pretty much follow the system, follow the coach.
Correct. You have to follow everything to the T.
Okay, so what is the real disconnect with African Americans and the stock market, trading, forex, the whole 9 yards? Because that's not something we talk about. Most houses don't, not even a conversation. Probably the most you're gonna hear about it nowadays is gonna be on social media if you follow those people, but that's not the general conversation amongst uh, uh, the neighborhood, the families. That's not really the talk. So what's the disconnect between Wall Street trading and African Americans?
So a lot of people, when they think about trading and investing, they a little bit confused about, what goes on in the market, right? They look at stuff and they like, hey, this seems like okay, a scam, like it's not working right. Like I hear all these horror stories, you know, people don't look like me that's trading and investing. So I'm just not gonna get involved with it at all. I'm just not gonna get involved with it at all. So what happens what is it just is one thing that makes people just extremely nervous. I'd rather just put my money in the bank.
Right.
So what we do, right? What we do is make you feel comfortable about it, right? Because you're missing out on so much money with this. You're missing out on so much money from trading and investing. Whereas when you see people like us, we show you a simplified way to do it, right? We show you a way that allows you to make consistent profits, right?
Mm.
Consistent profits the actual safe way, right? Very, very important. Very important. So when people in the households, they always hear about a get rich quick scheme. They always hear about somebody doing something crazy or something of that nature. So they put two and two together, right? They put two and two together and they realize that something must be going on, right? They realize
Mm.
that, okay, maybe um, this thing isn't for our people, isn't for our culture, it's only made for the white man,
Right.
right? That's one of the biggest things that we go through right now. That's one of the biggest things that we go through right now is dealing with that, right? So what we want to do is help people realize there's a safe way of doing it. There's a safe way of trading and investing so people can have a safe time putting money into the market and pulling out consistent profits.
Okay. So you have a time like now. We're in a market downturn. How do
Hmm.
you convince people to say, you know what, we know we're in a market downturn,
Correct.
but your money is still safe?
Correct.
What is that conversation like?
The best thing for people to do is be in a situation where knowing the difference between a controlled loss and a controlled win. The market is downturning right now, right? In the long term, the market always recovers. So on average, the S&P 500 makes 10% or so a year. But what you can do, right, is always protect your profits, right?
Right.
You want to be very, very important about that. You want to protect your profits. So if you're looking to retire in the next maybe 6 months to a year, is really concerning. But not if you're looking for long term, right? It usually turns back around. But the beauty behind trading and investing, and that's what we teach at the Profit Room, is we show people how to get back in, right? You don't always have to be in the market. So if you see something declining, 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 okay, cut the loss, sit on the side. Then you can turn around and be able to get back in the trade, right? And that's what we
Right.
show you within our trading styles of how you can capitalize on different types of the markets.
Okay. So with the Profit Room, which is your education platform,
Correct.
uh, you teach the people how to trade, or do you kind of walk them through trading? Like, do they are they? I see some people out here doing. They're actually just following people's trade. I will do it. I'm doing the trade. Do what I do. Is that how you do it, or you approach
No,
trading
everything
differently?
everything we do is about education. It's all about education. We want to teach people how to be independent professional traders. They're going to learn how to place their own trades with their own thought process and their own thinking ability, right? Because at the end of the day, we like to say what you eat won't make me fat and vice versa,
Right.
right? Everybody has their own risk management. Everybody has their own style of trading. So we help you develop that own style, right? Just like your style of driving, getting somewhere. Some people move a little bit faster. Some people a little bit cautious. Some people, hey, I'm just going to ride on the right lane, right? That's the same thing with
Mm-hmm.
trading. You can't take my style of trading and adapt it to your lifestyle or personality because it may not fit. So that's our main goal, is so you can learn how to be independent on your own.
Okay. So trading. How much do I have? How much should I have in my pocket if we're talking about if I want to get into trading? What? How much should I have? What should I? What can I expect? Where should I? Where should my mind be at when it comes to that?
So when you start trading and when you start investing, the best thing you can start with low, you're like you could start with $500 to 1,000. You can start with fractional shares too, even if you can't work your way up, right? Because they got some discounted brokers and
Mm-hmm.
things like that that you can actually start with, right? But anywhere between on average a good 20 or 30% per trade, you should start taking money out, right? Very, very important. You should start booking profits, right? So in the beginning, a lot of people are looking for fast returns, right? You don't need fast returns, you just need controlled wins,
Right.
right? And a lot of people, when they get into trading, that's the biggest misconception. It's like, I just need this super big trade right away. But when you start getting consistent profits, right, even 6 to 8% is good, right? And it also
Right.
depends about the amount of capital. If you're only using small amount of capital, sometimes you can't expect a big return, right? Very, very
Mm-hmm.
important. But the whole goal is to be able to build confidence enough to use more capital in
Mm-hmm.
order to increase the profits. But you got to start somewhere. So starting somewhere small, long term, $500 here, or buying some fractional shares in some growth companies can be a good start.
Excuse me. So basically, the more you invest with, the more profit you make. Basically.
If you have a good, solid strategy,
Mm-hmm.
correct. You know, because at the end of the day, you don't want to over leverage yourself.
Okay. So tell us about the profit room. Tell us about what you do there and how you
So,
help the people.
we education company. We try to get people of all walks of life, all social economic backgrounds, and we show them how to trade and invest. And the beauty behind that, we have a mentorship program, like you mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
where people who learn how to trade and invest with us, they focus on trading and putting things together
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that they thoroughly understand what they actually are doing. So Latoya and I, we have a team of coaches, and we put them through a weekly program. Right, our average program lasts about 12 weeks or so, and every week we hand feed you a new module. Every week you graduate through a new program, through homework. Every week you get new coaching sessions, and by the end of the program, we expect you to be an independent professional trader. Within that program, you should know everything you need to do, how to enter a trade, how to exit a trade, and how to profit from a trade with risk management. Are you going to be a professional afterwards? No, it still needs time, but you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have everything and all the skills you need.
Okay. So, so excuse me. So where can the people find you, and where do you want people to look for you at?
So anywhere on social media, you see theprofitroom.com, anywhere on
Mm-hmm.
social media. Also, we got a free case study video. If you go to workwithernest.com, workwithernest.com, I give you a free video on how you can start trading and investing when you first starting out, especially if you're a busy person, got
Mm-hmm.
busy lifestyle, and I gain a lot of information from there.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming to the show. Any last words?
No, that's it. We're basically trading and investing. Just start somewhere. Be conscious of your financial needs so you and your family could definitely benefit from learning about the different financial markets.
All right. There you have it, Mr. Ernest Gaines. All right. That's the
Take care.
show. You take care.